We've been talking all week about managing a team, and today we're going to talk about the benefits. Now, you're probably saying, oh, every team needs to be managed. We're going to turn that on its ear a little bit today, I bet. All that and more on today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom.
Good morning, Bob. How are you today?
I'm good, except I'm outside and I've got the sun in my eyes and I'm going to be squinting. So for you podcast people, you're lucky you're not watching me squint. For the rest of you, oh well. But I do have a nice background.
Yeah, very nice background. It looks,
I'm working on that.
It's a beautiful morning wherever you are.
Very pastoral in rural Maryland.
Nice. Well, welcome everyone to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast. Each week, Bob and I have a conversation around a topic. And as we go through that topic, if you have thoughts or ideas that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Please feel free to put them in the comments, whether you're watching us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live, baby.
LinkedIn Live. I wasn't sure if I forgot one. So we welcome your thoughts because we know that it'll add value to our show and impact what we feel about managing a team. Then at the end of the conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote. That thing that we hope will help you find your next step along your own unique pathway to success. And again, of course, if you have one thing you'd like to share, please feel free to share that in the comments as well. And before we start each conversation, we kick off our show with celebrations. Bob, what are you celebrating today?
I'm going to celebrate the fact that what we were talking about yesterday regarding managing versus leading led to a discussion among some employees at a company I deal with that was a different discussion than it had ever been. And I think the catalyst was what we were talking about, and the thoughts that we shared sparked other thoughts and really moved that organization forward in a profound way.
Nice. That's good. Celebration. Nice to know that there's some impact being made.
Yeah.
Funny what happens when you share your value.
Yeah. And it's, we do this each morning and you don't really always know what effect you have. And in the last week or two, I've had 3 or 4 people say, that really made a difference, or that's really good. I really enjoy that each day. And I celebrate the people who find value in this ultimately, because that's why we do it. Plus, it helps each of us figure out what the heck's going on in our heads.
Certainly, or at least try.
Touche. So what are you celebrating today?
Today I am celebrating that I have not one appointment on my calendar all day, because I am feeling a little run down from a long couple of months and I need a quiet day.
Okay. You gonna unplug the computer and sit on your back porch and read a book?
I'm not 100% certain what I might do.
Okay.
I didn't sleep very well, so I might take a little nap this morning. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Figure it all out.
All right.
The beauty of having a free day, the opportunity to figure out what you want to do.
Being a renegade,
yes.
Sleeping during the day.
Yes, indeed. Well, if you don't sleep at night, you probably ought to sleep a little bit in the day at some point.
Good point.
Yeah. All righty. So let's dive into our topic. We've been talking about managing a team. Yesterday we had this, we kind of flipped it up on its head, talked about really leading a team. And now we're going to talk about the benefits of managing a team. Do you want to kick us off, Bob?
I'm going to kick us off, and it's going to be a little, I'm probably going to throw some hand grenades at things, if that's okay.
I guess. Sure.
I think the traditional model is that a team is managed by the leader of that team. The person who's the manager manages the employees, and that person tells them what to do. And I think we're trained that way when we're at our first job at the McDonald's or the Wendy's or For me, it was a bowling alley, and I'd do something, and they'd say, "Okay, do this, and then do this, and do this." And I didn't have very much agency. I didn't have very much opportunity to think about what I was doing. They didn't say, "Here's the task list, get it done," until I was there about 3 months, and they realized I was pretty capable of managing myself. And then I managed myself. And I think when we talk about the benefits of managing a team, we're really a team manages itself. Yes, there is a leader who manages, but there's ideally, but there's also each person within that team is managing themselves and their interactions with other people. And I think the benefits of managing a team come down to every person is a participant in that management. If I need to be at this at 7 a.m., I've got to manage my schedule this morning to be here at 7 a.m. You had to manage the graphics. You had to manage the production stuff. We had to manage who was going to do the opening. That was a shared thing. There was no dictatorship. I don't remember getting a list yesterday of, Bob, on tomorrow's broadcast, you're going to do these 9 things. And so I think the benefits of managing a team are much broader, and it's not just for that leader or that organization. It's for everyone involved. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of value in that. The other thing I think is that, and you sort of alluded to it, I think in your opening, is that initially you were managed at the bowling alley. There were boundaries that were set. There were procedures to follow.
Yes.
And that allowed you to get a little acclimated to the organization. And I think that a little bit of managing has benefits. It does allow teams to create some sort of structure initially. And I think the beauty of it is when we look at that, and at some point that structure, those procedures, those guidelines don't serve us anymore, that we can have a leader that allows us to grow and change and modify it as we bring our value to that team. And yet I think that without that initial managing, it's going to be difficult to do that because people are going to be all over the place doing whatever they want to do. Like if the first day of the bowling alley, they walked in and said, "Here you go, Bob. Your job is to manage the front desk.
Right.
Figure out what that looks like. You're a smart guy. You can figure out how to do this." You would be like, "I don't know what I'm doing."
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe you could have figured it out. So I think that, I think yesterday I did say that why it matters, that it doesn't matter. And I'm going to take that back. I'm going to modify that a little bit. And that said, there is some value in creating that structure, as long as that structure is not just rock stone solid that'll never change, because you need to manage it. If I think one of the challenges in some of those early jobs is people are just told what to do, and they're not allowed to develop and grow and learn and share that, because everyone looks at them as, well, they don't have any knowledge, experience, and perspective around what's going on. And so we need to tell them what to do. And sadly, that just continues and continues and continues until people feel frustrated and feel like all I'm doing is being managed. I'm not growing. And so now I need an opportunity to do something different.
It was interesting at the bowling alley. I was very social and I was always talking to people, and another employee who started at the same time as me, that employee got to work the front counter, and I was always taking out the trash, moving ice, moving buckets, just all kinds of stuff where I didn't really get to interact with people. And I would get in trouble every couple of days because I was just goofing off. I'd be like talking to someone, they're like, "Bob, trash needs to be gotten." I'm just talking to, "Oh, how's your game going?" But and they never thought that this person who was at the desk was jealous of the fact that I didn't have to interact with people. They wanted no part of it. Yet they were in that role. And I think that's another aspect. The benefits of a team being managed in some ways, you can put people where their strengths are if you choose. And that can make them much more engaged in the organization, and it can make whoever you're serving feel better about the experience. I would have been much better at the counter, because that's just the way I am, than filling buckets of ice. And that employee and I should have switched jobs, but that was not, we were being managed in a way that there was no discussion about that. That wasn't even, It was just I was hired to be a porter and they were hired to be a counter person. And I think that's unfortunate looking back on it. I also think when you were talking earlier, I pictured what you were describing as really setting the guardrails for what that work looks like. You know, you've got a 3-lane highway. You can pick which lane you want to go in. You can pick how fast you want to go. You can pick when you're going to pull over and grab a soda or go to the bathroom. But those guardrails are on the side so you don't go off the cliff, or you don't go into the water, or you don't go into the really bad stuff. And I think that's a way, as I think about it today, that might be a way to look at managing, is that, you know, ideally maybe you set the guardrails rather than setting the pathway very narrow. Does that make sense?
Yes. You know, it's interesting. One of the things I think is I wonder, had you been the person behind the desk, might you have gotten sick and tired of talking with people and dealing with all their problems?
Tom,
Rather, you were given
I've
a
dealt
job
with a
that
lot of
allowed
people
you.
in my life. I don't get tired of talking to people. That does not grow old.
Well, maybe that's because of the experiences that you've had, is that you were allowed to do it on your terms, not standing behind the desk and having to listen to all the griping and complaining and, you know, the pins aren't resetting, my ball didn't come back, the shoes don't fit. You'd have been like,
You've been to a bowling alley.
oh yeah, you could have found that interaction with people as you'd have had a different experience, and maybe that changes what is real for you in the long term. And so the opportunity that you got to do it on your terms in a job that maybe you didn't really appreciate or didn't fit what you thought and what you know now are your strengths might have changed what's real for you. What do you think about that?
That makes that 5 months of torture at a bowling alley at the age of 16 sounds so much better than it did.
Well, it's just part of our knowledge, experience, and perspective that all shapes who we are and what we are. And I think so often, I think it's easy for us to look back and say, oh, yeah, that's why I loved or hated this job. You didn't know that at the time. You're like, oh my God, I have a job at the bowling alley. They're going to pay me.
Yeah.
That was what's mattered.
$3.10 an hour, man. I was living the dream.
Yeah, but that was back in like 1980.
It was actually the 1700s, Tom.
So $3 an hour had a lot of value then.
That's it. Yes. So as we talk through this, Tom, what do you think when we talk about managing teams and the benefits? If you had to talk about the number one benefit, what would that be?
I think the number one benefit is that it sets some structure. And I think that in all organizations, right, we only know what we know, right? So we say, okay, this is where our team is at. This is what we believe we need. So this is the structure on which we are bringing someone new into the team. And then once they're on the team, the situation is now changed and you start to discover other skills about the person and what they bring to the team and how that impacts the team. And as long as you're flexible to let that structure be different and you're always constantly looking at it to see if it still makes sense based on what has changed, I think that that's one of the biggest values it has.
I like that. And also that team changes within the dynamics of any organization. The goals shift, the expectations shift. It's fluid. I think some people think of their task as this is my job and I do this thing for 27 years or 38 years, but really it's constantly in flux, especially now. I think because we've moved to so much globalization and computerization and all the supply chain issues, it is really fluid now. You know, the simple job of being a parts manager at a auto shop, not what it used to be. You're dealing with customers who are coming in every day going, I'm looking for that crankshaft. Where is it? You ordered it 3 months ago for me. And they've got to look and try to figure out where it is, call, find out when it's going to be here, in a way that a couple of years ago, you could just order the crankshaft and it would be there in 2 days.
And there are some roles that are still very much managed all the time.
Yeah.
And I think some of those entry-level jobs are the ones where we believe that we need to manage someone forever, rather
Yes.
than getting them in, getting them associated, and letting them work within the boundaries that we've provided. Again, there are some places that are a storefront. You need
Mhm.
somebody there from whatever the hours that you run are, 9 to 5. And if someone feels like, well, I could do my job more effectively if I showed up at 11, that's not really helpful when they're the one who's supposed to be opening the shop at 9. And so I think that there is some management that creates a structure, and then you can figure it out. Maybe they show up at 11 because nobody's ever there from 9 to 11, and you decide,
Right.
Maybe what we thought was the structure we needed has changed.
And don't you think a lot of that management really is about creating consistency in the experience for the customer? I think of McDonald's. If you're the rogue person who doesn't put the lettuce on the Big Mac, hey, you know what? I'm not a lettuce person. I just felt like going rogue on this thing. You're going to change that experience for a lot of people. And that's not McDonald's. And, Chick-fil-A and Amazon, there's a certain experience that you expect. So Amazon, you know how they're going to be dressed. If someone brought me a package and they weren't dressed in their Amazon wear and they had an Amazon box, I'd be scared.
Yeah.
So we need to have that consistency in some management, but I think that Amazon person who comes and drops the package off, if they see me and they have a 3-minute discussion with me about, oh, hey, how's it going? How about those Orioles trades? I was really surprised. That should be okay. That should be, that's that person and that's their interaction with the customer, and that's a good thing. Even though it's probably going to throw them off schedule and the metrics are going to be off and they'll probably get talked to in 3 days.
Which could be a little bit one of the challenges of now they're being managed. They're not being led.
Correct. Yep. So what's your one thing this morning, Tom?
Well, you asked me what the top thing was. So now I got to it's a different thing.
Well, you could say that's your one thing.
I could. And you know me. That's not typically the way I roll. So as I think about managing a team and the benefits, I think that one of the benefits is that it at least provides some level. I mean, you use consistency and I use structure. Maybe that's exactly what I shared before. And I think that it allows us to at least have a baseline understanding of what are the expectations. If there is no management, there's no, what are the expectations? I don't really know. There's some goal, I guess. And I think that sometimes that isn't as effective as it could be. There are, again, some roles, as you mentioned, if you're putting a car together and you're like, nah, you know what? I'm not going to put this bolt in because I'm feeling tired today. And I think there's a different way to do it. And you try it a different way. And then that tire falls off on the person who buys it. That's not going to be helpful.
Right.
So I think that there's also some things like safety and maybe safety is the biggest that provides safety and accountability, because those are important things. And I think you can do them different ways as long as you know what the baseline is. Now you can work from there.
I like that. I think for me, it goes back to the idea that management is not just telling people what to do. It's also managing ourselves and managing ourselves within that team. I work within teams, and one of the benefits of working with the team is there are times when my skills can be leveraged and there are times when other people's skills can be leveraged. And that can really make the work much more enjoyable. And I think it can also make it much more effective. And so really thinking about that, how can you best allocate resources and let people allocate themselves as much as possible. The best managers I've had started managing me heavily and then got out of my way.
Sure.
One of my absolute best managers really gave me the reins and said, go. Come to me when you need me, but otherwise I don't want to hear from you. Not in a negative way, but like, you're ready to fly. Go fly. Yeah. Don't tell me everything you want to do. Just do. And it was a really profound lesson for me, because up to that point, I was like, I got to run everything by my manager and make sure it's okay. And he was like, dude, you go. And
Well,
I
you were building
loved
up
the experience.
the trust.
Yeah.
That, yes, you might do things differently, yet you weren't going to do them so differently that they really cross the boundary or the lines of all those things that organizations do have some value in, which is consistency to the customer, which is being accountable, all those other things. You have gained the trust to be able to do that.
And I did things this person had no idea how to do. So
Sure.
managing me was making sure I was within the confines of the organization. It wasn't managing, are the widgets being stacked in the right order? He didn't have a concern about that. What he was looking for was, I'd like to see you become more efficient in stacking the widgets, and I'd really like you to find some other ways for us to use these widgets.
Sure.
And it kept me at that job for probably another 2.5 years. Because I can remember right before he was hired, I was really thinking this was getting old. I was doing the same thing. I was having the same discussions, and he came in. He actually got a job that I applied for. He got the job, and we sat down, and he said, look, I've heard great things about you. I don't want to get in your way. I want to support you. How can I support you? I said, let me do what I'm good at. He said, okay, go. And then
Sure.
we would have a meeting once every couple weeks. Most of the meetings we'd have would be him celebrating what I accomplished, because he'd be at a bigger meeting where they'd say, hey, Bob's really doing a great job. And he'd come and tell me, hey, you're doing a really great job. They love you. And
Nice.
that was his management of me most of the time, until there'd be a time where I'm like, hey, can I come in and just talk to you about what I'm facing? I need a second opinion. He would be all ears. And then we would troubleshoot it together. And then it would be like, okay, can you do that? I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And then I'd go off and be doing my thing for a week or two, and then come back to him. And it really motivated me. And I think it was a big step in me going from a person who was managed, believe it or not, to someone who was a leader.
Yeah.
Because he gave me the reins to say, hey, this is the area that you lead, and this is where it fits in my role, and this is where it fits in with our big organization. Let me know if you're confused.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think that's, and you get there because you built the trust of the person, and they
and the organization, because he came in and had heard great things about me. So all I had to do was very quickly prove that what he had heard was true. It didn't take like a year.
Right.
We're talking like 3 days.
3 days. Look at you.
Well, I was a superstar.
Of course. All right. Everyone, thanks so much for being a part of our show today. If you have your one thing you'd like to share, please feel free to put it in the comments. If you happen to be listening to the podcast, we apologize. There are no place for comments. You can always hop over to our Ring of Renegades Facebook group and share it there. We'll be having a conversation around managing a team all week. And so we welcome your thoughts and ideas in there, because we know that there might be somebody looking for exactly what you have to share, and you can help them take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. Or you might find someone else's value that has been shared that is exactly what you're looking for. So we look forward to seeing you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern time, for
Discoveries of the Week.
Favorite show of the week, Discoveries of the Week. We'll share our discoveries talking about managing a team. So we look forward to seeing you then. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegading you and enjoy this beautiful day.
Especially if you live in Baltimore, because you might be living somewhere else where the day is not as
Every
nice.
day is beautiful.
I think that's a song, isn't it?
Enjoy your nap, Tom.
We'll see. I may or may not take one. We'll see.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.